this video, I want to introduce you to the cash flow register function in your financial calculator. If you look at the My Courses content, table of content, you'll notice that in the financial calculator toolkit, there are a number of different manuals and tutorials for your Texas Instruments BA2 Plus calculator, including this one here, which has some specific instructions on page 6 for entering cash flow register uneven cash flows. Now the cash flow register, just like it says, it's for uneven cash flows, meaning that you're looking for a present value or a net present value of a mixed stream of cash flows, so something that you would not be able to use for the traditional 5-key approach. And we'll look at both here in just a second. Also, just so you know, in the week 3 folder, this has a file which is an Excel file, but what I've done is show both the manual as well as calculator approaches to solving the textbook examples of 5.12 and 5.13 in chapter 5. So again, it's an Excel file, but I did not solve them with Excel. I actually just illustrated the manual approach along with the financial calculator approach step by step on how to solve it within the cash flow register of the calculator. So let's go back to the Finance Lab page, and we could click on a homework assignment, or we can go into the study plan and click on, for example, a chapter 5 problem and take a look at the cash flow register within the calculator that's embedded in the problem. This could be, again, a study plan problem, a homework assignment problem, or even an exam problem. But in order to keep it kind of high level and just show you some functions of the cash flow register, let's just go in here to the financial calculator tab that's here and access it that way. So this is a way that you could access the calculator outside of an actual problem that you're working. Notice that there are some tutorials for both the BA2 Plus calculator as well as an HP 10B calculator. You also have an ability to download the financial app on your smartphone. But if we just simply click on the first link here, My Finance Lab Financial Calculator, it's going to bring up the same calculator that's embedded in your homework problems. So what we have is the cash flow register here, so CF is for cash flow. Again, this would be for solving either a present value problem or a net present value problem that has mixed cash flows, as opposed to using the 5-key approach here, which has regular periodic cash flows that don't change. So in order to get started, what I prefer to do is enter the interest rate right away by just simply clicking on whatever the rate is. Let's say it's 4. Add it to the I/Y screen, just like you would in the regular 5-key approach. You'll see it brings it up top here. But if you then click on the cash flow register button, it's going to carry it up into your actual cash flow register screen. So this now we're actually in the cash flow register, and it's carried that interest rate up here as well. Now you should be able to change the rate up here if you needed to, but I found in working with this calculator that it's easier just to start from the beginning. Let's reset and run it again by just clicking on the rate up front, enter it into the interest button here, then click on the cash flow register, let it carry it into the register for you. So just found that to be an easier process for whatever reason. Now for a cash flow register problem or cash flow problem, for chapter 5, there won't be any upfront cash flow or time zero cash flows. This would be for initial upfront costs. So this would be, for example, if you're buying a piece of equipment or replacing a machine, something of that sort. There's an upfront cost to buy the equipment or machinery, and then you get some benefit in the years or periods after by using that piece of machinery or equipment. So typically, if there is an upfront cost, it's going to be entered as a negative number. This will be something that you'll utilize, or you'll see that there will be a figure for in primarily your chapter 11 capital budgeting problems. In chapter 5, you'll be using the cash flow register just to solve really for present value. So you'll still use the NPV or net present value button when you solve the final problem, but what you're really solving for is present value, because there is no upfront cost or cash flow zero, time zero cash flow. So as an example, what we would do here is just simply arrow down through or past the cash flow at 0, and you see it carries up to the top here. So this would be the first cash flow, so not year 1 or a initial cash inflow. This is just the initial flow that's entered into the cash flow register, which is always going to be the cash flow at time zero. So when we get to our first cash flow, which we would typically see in a problem as a year one cash flow, this is where we'd actually enter that positive cash flow. Let's say it's $700 for year one. We'll lock that in with the enter button. An arrow down, and this would be our frequency. So let's say that $700 is going to be our benefit for the first period or first cash flow, which may actually be year one. And it's just going to be $700 for one period. So our frequency is just going to be 1. We can then arrow down to cash flow 2. So again, this could be year 2, but more specifically, it's the second cash inflow. So this, let's say, is $800 for the second cash flow. We'll lock that in. And let's just say frequency is just going to be 1 time. And let's say for time or for cash flow 3, it's going to be $900. We lock that in for 1 period. And again, these are mixed stream cash flows, so each cash flow is different. If each cash flow was the same, if it was $700 3 times, we would just simply use the payment function in the 5-key approach, and we wouldn't have to use the cash flow register in the first place. Now, another nice feature of the cash flow register is that if you do have a period that's in between here, or maybe tacked on to the end of these cash flows, that is the same figure for a number of different periods. So let's say that it's $700. Sorry, we can go back, clear that out. Remember, I just hit clear to clear that line. Re-enter 1 for just 1 frequency, and arrow down to my cash flow 4. So let's say that it's now going to be $800 again, but it's going to be $800 for 3 periods, or for 3 consecutive cash inflows. So we lock in our $800 as the 4th cash flow, and arrow down to the frequency, and let's say it's going to be for 3 periods. So we enter a 3 and hit enter to lock that in. You can see that it's already refilled up the top for us here. $800 for 3 consecutive cash inflows. So it saves us time in inputting each individual one 3 separate times. And let's say that for the final cash flow 5, let's say that it's going to be $300. So $300, we can enter that in, arrow down, it's just going to be a 1 time, so frequency is 1. You can see it up top there. And then to actually solve the problem, we would just hit compute, NPV, which in this case is technically net present value, but there was no upfront cost. So the problems that you'll see in chapter 5 are going to ask you for present value of a mixed stream. And again, you're going to still use the same key. So this would be our net present value of all of these cash inflows that we entered up top here.